Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'd like to say I'm very happy that you found my video. Today we will be looking at The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom's new trailer. It was recently released a few days ago, and in this video I'm going to be making a small analysis on the trailer, going scene by scene and reviewing some of the things that it showcased, such as new weapons, new enemies, and the like. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Thanks for watching, and without further ado, let's jump right into it. The first scene we see is a dramatic shot of Hyrule Field with Death Mountain erupting in the background. The sky is dark and stormy. As rain falls on the land of Hyrule, lightning splits the sky and illuminates both the heavens and the earth. Here we find things we've seen in the last trailer. Number 1 is Death Mountain, spewing out what appears to be the new type of malice that was revealed in the first trailer, as well as a small pool of malice in the field. Next to this, we see a strange glowing spiral of green energy. I'm not quite sure what this could be, but we will see a few more of them in scenes to come. The next shot takes place at the military training camp. This highlights a new winged enemy that resembles a sort of large reptile with antennae. You can also barely make out two bokoblins, one red, one blue, and both are sporting the new horns on their heads. We then return to a shot of a large area, this time between Tabantha and Hebra Range. The first thing that my eyes went to was the large glowing glyph on the ground. It's kind of a tongue twister, huh? Actually, speaking of twister though, when the next bolt of lightning flashes, it reveals a huge cyclone above Hebra Peak. There are also two large towers, each with 4 spotlights surrounding them. They also appear to glow on the inside, similar to Sheikah towers. Here we see a basic shot of a sky island that is hovering over some hard, rocky terrain. Probably the most interesting part of this is the strange square below it. It seems to have a glowing red dot that's above it or part of its structure. Either way though, not much else is to be seen in this shot. Now this part is very interesting. It appears to be a monster mining camp that is underground. There is strange vegetation everywhere, and an especially odd one in the back left. It has a strange looking bulb or mass and looks almost kind of scaly. The monsters are also quite interesting as well. There are 3 Lizalfos standing guard and a bokoblin using a stone hammer to mine an ore deposit on a large boulder. It even has a little backpack. The Lizals have new horns that look similar to cutlasses. Bokoblin has a horn very different from the others that we've seen so far. It's barbed, long, and sharp. All the monsters also have dark red streams of malice-like energy coming from them. There is also a large quantity of malice on the ground around the rock. A few odd blue flames reminiscent to the ones found around spirits across the series are on the right of the screen. This is also the very first scene when we hear the voice of what is presumed by many, including myself, to be Ganondorf.
Rise, rise, my servants. Sweep over Hyrule. Eliminate this kingdom and her allies. Leave no survivors!
This next shot is another simple one. It's of Lake Hylia and its bridge with Death Mountain and the now floating Hyrule Castle in the background. Pretty simple, not much to see here. Then we move on to... wait. It kind of feels like I'm forgetting something. Oh wait, that's right. It's the literal 3-headed, fire-breathing dragon just standing there on the bridge. It looks epic. Its heads are lit up by flames and its spiked tail is swerving. It just looks awesome against the dark sky. I gotta say though, I was not expecting them to add an entire new dragon boss. This is probably Gleeok from The Legend of Zelda, like the original game. It might be a new enemy, but the 3-headed Hydra-like design, it's pretty reminiscent of Gleeok. This is basically just Hateno Village, except now there's another one of those glowing spirals in it. Another weird thing that's going on in the village and wasn't really noticeable at first, the village itself, like the lights in the windows, it almost seems to be sparkling. I'm hoping that isn't a bunch of house fires, and if it is, I hope the villagers are all okay. Here we have Link standing in an archway. He has a new type of bow, and he also has the shield from some of the previous trailers. And the sky is a blood moon. And, blood moon isn't really new, but it is kind of important. We just need to wait a few seconds. It'll become pretty evident in a little bit. I suggest that we just keep watching. The next shot is right above Hyrule Castle. It's another shot of the blood moon. This time it seems much, much larger than usual, though. And the sky begins to stain a deep red as malice flecks litter the air. It then pans out to show a view of the whole castle. And I gotta say, it isn't really looking too good. It seems to be crusted over with malice, and that might be from the previous Ganon, or it might be from all the malice shooting out of the ground into the rock and pushing it up. Either way, not really looking good for the castle. Then, malice falls down onto the Great Plateau. It may not be obvious at first, but the angles show it's not actually falling from the moon. Just thought I'd throw that out there, because I know that's what a lot of people thought was happening at first. So, yeah, that's what's going on. Shout out to Zeltic, one of my favorite YouTubers. That's where I first found out about the angles. I'm not sure if he originally discovered it or not, but that's where I heard about it. So, also, he's got a really good video. I would suggest go watching him after you finish mine, if you want a really, really in-depth analysis on this. So, yeah, I suggest that. Okay, so this next shot is very strange. It's obviously an explosion of some sort, but there appears to be something inside it. I don't really know what this is. It does look like a monster, though. It's possible that it might be a defeated boss monster. So perhaps this cutscene plays when you defeat a boss. Moving on to the next scene, we see a lot of volcanic rock falling down from either an earthquake, or perhaps this is a huge rock monster like the Igniotalus. It could also be something else entirely, but I'm not sure. We also see a section of Hyrule Castle that's crumbling apart, just like in the second trailer, I believe. So this is possibly when Ganon is resurrecting and lifting the castle from the ground, causing these large-scale earthquakes. This next shot is just another cool scene showing the Great Plateau under the blood moon. It looks pretty cool, and it's got a really wide view. It's honestly pretty impressive, but not much else to be seen in this shot. We then go back to see what happens when the falling malice hits the ground. It appears to actually spawn some enemies. The ones shown here are red bokoblins with those new serrated horns that we talked about earlier. In the scene immediately afterward, we actually see even more enemies, including 2 new ones spawn in, as well as a blue bokoblin with forked horns, a blue Lizalfos with the same cutlass horn as earlier, and a red moblin with those odd spiky dome horn. Very strange design choice, but it kind of looks cool, almost like a helmet. Actually, it might be a helmet for all we know. But anyway, the new enemy farthest to the right is similar to bokoblins. It's also somewhat similar to a Hinox as well. This thing even has a sword stuck in its head for some reason as well. Very strange. Apparently, it's actually called a boss bokoblin. That was on the Japanese Twitter page, I think. And next to the boss bokoblin is a new skeletal monster. It's got pincer jaws and glowing white eyes behind a sunken face. It could also be a mask, perhaps. And this could possibly be the return of the horrifying Zelda monster, the Re-Dead. Now, I don't have much proof for this, but once again, look at the evidence of this thing. It's an emaciated corpse-like body. It has some bones showing. It's got 2 glowing white eyes behind a terrifying mouth or mask or whatever. But either way, this thing is still just as terrifying as the Re-Dead, and I hope to encounter these quite a bit. Continuing on, we have a shot of Link riding a horse, It's similar to Epona, and he's riding in front of Hyrule Castle. You can also see the cyclone over Hebra Peak. Okay, so this is a very weird shot. This is near Gerudo Desert, and it's a horde of creatures. They're moving speedily toward the camera. I have not much else to say about this one. It's too difficult to make out what this is. It's not enough footage to really make sure. So this could really be anything. Could be Molduga or some sort of new creature. I mean, it could even just be the wind. We really don't have a way to tell for this one. So Sheikah Tech is back. We see Link is standing on a Sheikah platform, and 6 guardian appendages come out of the ground from beneath it. One arm is also holding what might be like a wire or a spring. On the back wall, there is a sticker with the Sheikah symbol on it. So hopefully these are friendly guardian arms. Hopefully just for upgrades or something. Okay, quick edit here. That's probably not actually a sticker. It's probably something to do with Japanese culture. I'm pretty sure it's some sort of seal or something. But that's not really the point. The point is the Sheikah are back in this shot, so we just know that they're here, and they still actually exist. And here we have another boss bokoblin. He's blowing a large horn, and he's leading a couple blue bokoblins into battle under the light of a blood moon. Very short scene, but pretty detailed nonetheless. Looks pretty cool. This scene is pretty interesting as well. It shows Link fleeing from a Hinox, and the Hinox actually has a large green crystal around his neck, and this is a similar green color to the weird energy that we've been seeing lately in the trailers before. So might have something to do with that. Maybe it's some sort of collectible, or it's to open a puzzle. But they seem to be in a small cave, or maybe a cave opening leading to the underground. And also the Hinox has a little hat. Okay, this shot is pretty simple. Link runs off a cliff and pulls out his new glider. That's about it, at least that I can see. Now we have a shot of Link riding through the grass on his horse, and this is actually one of those large glyphs. It seems like it's actually part of the grass, and it almost kind of looks like it's spray painted on there. Pretty cool looking from a distance, but it honestly looks like slightly yellower grass up close. Here we have 2 more of those flying enemies that we saw earlier in the trailer. These guys are actually carrying bokoblins around in the air, and this seems like it could work as a good surprise attack, or maybe the bokoblins could shoot their bows from up there, and that would be some pretty interesting combat. Here we have some moblins, and they're attacking Link. This looks like some pretty basic combat stuff. They look a little different because of the new horns, but otherwise it's pretty much the same, and they seem to have the same attack patterns. The only thing that's really different in this shot, besides the horns, is the larger variant of the skull encampments that the enemies used to have in Breath of the Wild, and it's a lot bigger. It's actually pretty impressive how much bigger that these things are, and maybe it'll have like leveled combat the further you go up, and I think that would be kind of neat. But yeah, this is a pretty neat idea. Okay, this is a pretty cool shot. We have Link, and he's fighting a large, blocky golem-like enemy. And this thing seems to be powered by the glowing bluish energy. It's similar to that dragon robot we saw in a previous trailer. And I'm kind of wondering if it's supposed to be a trial for him in the Sky Islands. Like to test his strength by the ancients. Or it could just be a generic monster, and that would be cool either way. On its shoulder, there's a bright patch on its body. It could be a weak spot, and it also appears to be quite the powerhouse. As soon as it hits the ground with its punch, a massive shockwave is like shaking the camera and the ground. And it even loosened its own arm and like shook it throughout its body. Pretty cool. You might be able to damage it by running up its arm and hitting it in the weak spot, which could be the patch on its shoulder or maybe its head. Yeah, this is a very cool shot of a brand new enemy. All right, this is a quick shot of Ganondorf with malice swelling in his chest. He's also violently shaking while lurching forward. This actually might be the part in the scene where he awakens for the first time in however many centuries, no, millennia that he's been, well, dead or otherwise. This dark ritual is sponsored by Hyrule Castle. Now, back to the resurrection. As Ganondorf stands with his arms outstretched, the floor beneath him rumbles and rises up from the ground. His eyes flash a burning red and yellow, filled with passion to destroy all of Hyrule. He has finally been awakened from his long slumber, and he is ready for war. Here we cut from the doom of all Hyrule to its one chance of survival from time and time again. Reincarnated as the hero of legends, Link, the last champion of Hyrule. We get a nice view of his face and upper body, and we move on to Link standing on a sky island, taking in an incredible view of the doomed land below, the land of Hyrule. Besides the one where Link is, we also see some other islands from above. There are quite a few impressive looking and oddly shaped islands. The most odd of these being the islands that are directly in front of Link and a bit to the left. These hover over top of each other and reach very far into the sky. It's actually so far that we really can't see the top, and we don't even know how far it even goes. Another one is directly above where Lomi Labyrinth is located. It's a cube. It's an actual cube. I believe enough has been said about this cube. However, when going over the trailer again, I noticed another strangely shaped one. Unlike the others, excluding the cube, it appears to be pretty symmetrical. It's got 4 spikes or maybe columns sticking out from its top. Although not much can be seen, perhaps this could be a floating boss arena, similar to where you duel with Monk Maz Koshia for the Breath of the Wild DLC. However, that's just a guess with no grounds, so it remains to be seen. The other islands look well designed, but they're all pretty generic. The next shot is one with Link's new skydiving mechanic. It's shown once again. However, this time it has a lot more detail, and it shows how the wind rushes around him, and it shows another really good view of Hyrule. I'm not a pro who knows the original map like the back of my hand, so I could be wrong here, but the area shown, it seems particularly torn up from the island rising from the ground. But like I said, I'm not quite sure, so please let me know down in the comments if this is in the original game, as I would love to explore this area if it is. Another detail is another one of the towers from the beginning of the trailer. It's in the upper mid-right near the top of the screen. It also has those spotlights, although it's hard to see since it's during the day. Now we transition over to a shot where Link is running on a big ledge and cliffside. It's overlooking a large glyph that is printed on the ground again. And above the ground, in the far back, is another cube. It's actually interesting because this time it's above the labyrinth near the desert. This has an interesting implication that perhaps the labyrinths themselves were raised from the ground. Another interesting structure in this shot is the new, larger version of the monster camp. We have a better view of it, although it's smaller from a distance. It's still obviously quite large, and the Bokos seem to have gotten quite a bit smarter since we last saw them. Alright, this is a really nice scene. This is really cool. We have a new type of arrow, or maybe an arrow attachment. Now, this attachment idea could be a very cool concept, but that is for another time. Now, we should just focus on what this arrow does. The new winged enemy is seen flying in place, most likely preparing to attack our hero, and Link has his bow drawn and ready. As he pulls back his bowstring, his hand begins to glow, and the mysterious green energy swirls around in the air before being absorbed into the sphere-shaped projectile that he actually proceeds to fire straight out. It seems obvious that he would miss the shot, but halfway to the creature, the arrow curves in midair and seems to either get a critical hit or make a small explosion. Either way, it didn't matter as the creature was blown out of the sky and begins to die, and then we cut away to the next shot. This is a really neat idea. This actually implies the existence of homing arrows, and these would be extremely helpful for aerial combat. Okay, so in this shot, it showcases a new mechanic, which I'm kind of surprised wasn't implemented in the original. Link can actually rail grind now. This is actually really cool. And using his shield, he is sliding down the mountain or cliff, and this leads him to an enemy base. And this base has a blockade, and there's 3 visible monsters, and there are also 3 minecarts on the side. These are closest to the cliff, as well as 2 propellers, and these might be important later. There's also a strange gray and green rock. It has a vein of red substance in it. I don't know what this is, and it seems very out of place against the reddish brown rocks all around it. This is very odd. Okay, so this is probably my least favorite part of the trailer. This implies the almost inevitable return of the motion control puzzles that were in Breath of the Wild. It's still an interesting shot though, because as we see the large object being moved, it's actually not controlled by the apparatus like a object that was in the shrines in Breath of the Wild. It's actually being connected to Link's arm by a flow of green energy, and this seems very similar to how magnesis works, and this might be serving several other purposes because we see something like this in a later shot. In this corner, we have the hero of the wild, Link, and in the other corner, we have nature incarnate, the Luminous Talus. This is a very cool shot. It's an underground location with stalactites hanging from the ceiling. It's actually a really neat underground area. It starts with Link midair, and he's doing a very large swing. This is his jump attack, and I forget the actual word for it, but it's where he jumps and swings down with a heavy weapon. And while he's swinging this, the motion seems to activate a device at the end of his weapon, and it appears to act like a cannon. It lights up with a huge spurt of blue energy. Then it fires out a huge blue orb wreathed in fire, and when it hits the talus, it explodes. This is really neat. This cannon also resembles a dragon head that we've seen in other locations, and it's very similar to Zonai architecture and that kind of design. And I just think it looks really cool. I mean, a fire-breathing dragon cannon thing? How can you not want to use that? Very nice weapon design. In this shot, we have a new character. And it appears to have a female body type, and it's wearing a long dress and is decorated with bracelets and a lot of jewelry. And this character could be one of a few things. This could be Hylia, the figure from the mural in the last trailer. And we really can't tell if it's the mural because we can't see anything above chest height. It could be both, or it could be an entirely new character. Anyway, this beautiful and mysterious figure will remain a mystery for the time being. This figure extends its hand and reaches out to take the gauntleted hand of who we assume to be Link. In this shot, it's probably taking place after the mysterious figure, And Link is closing and opening his hand, and he gazes on it with a determined look in his eyes. Alright, so here we have Link standing with his arm outstretched, and he's holding it over the swamp that's on the Great Plateau. At least I think it's the same one. It's very similar. He activates what is quite possibly the same power as seen before in the shot with the apparatus machine. Using this ability, he pulls a wheel out of the bubbling mud, and in the very next scene, we can see what it possibly is used on. Now, this is very interesting because this might be similar to magnesis, like in Breath of the Wild, except maybe it can pick up more than just metal objects. Speeding across Hyrule on 4 wheels is an amazing new addition that I bet almost no one expected. That's right, guys. In this scene, we see Link driving what is basically a car. And the design on this car is interesting to say the least, though. The main body is made out of wood and a strange green glue. And it's, this glue-like substance seems to be holding it together. Attached to this are parts of machinery, these being 2 large back wheels, 2 smaller front wheels, each with a dragon or serpent design covering the body of each of them. Oh, and we also get 2 fully functioning headlights. There's also a steering device that Link is piloting with, as well as an object that could be a power source or cargo in the back underneath some form of shelter. And this would be a neat idea because cargo could be transported for side quests or things like that, and that would be a lot easier than bringing things by foot. Or it could just be a power source, and this is what allows you to charge this car. However, I'm actually doubting that this is a power source because in the next scene, we jump to another form of transportation. This time we have a hot air balloon, and it's also held together by that strange green goo. I know it's far away, but you can't see any form of power source. Of course, this might just be because it's powered by, hot air from a fire. And that could just be the case, and it might be as simple as that. However, we have one more scene with transportation. This is killing me, man. We get an actual hovercraft. And I just gotta say, the idea of it is awesome. The thing doesn't look that great, but it works, though. It seems to be quite the hodgepodge. It kind of looks like a metal grate or a door glued to 4 propellers. And we saw these propellers a little while back, and that was on the rail grinding section. And in the background, we see a couple more islands in this scene, as well as an island or object in the shape of an orb. And this seems weirder, at least to me, than the cubes that we've seen earlier, because this just seems to be smack dab in the middle of a group of islands. Of course, we can't really see the ground where this is hovering over, so it could be something important, but I'm really not quite sure. But anyway, for the hovercraft, it's just a grate and propellers. Well, and the green glue that's holding it together. There is no battery, no power source, no engine or anything. Nothing seems to be powering it. All that's connected to it are the propellers and the steering device. No spot for a power source. That's why I doubt that in the car that was a power source, but was actually a form of cargo of some sort. The following scene is one of the last ones in the trailer. It shows Link riding his horse through Hyrule Field. The sun has just risen, and Link is riding straight towards it. The camera begins to zoom in gradually. It passes Link and raises slightly into the sky to reveal the title screen for the game. I think that this is a very nice touch. It symbolizes a new dawn for Hyrule, and Link is the person that will usher in that new dawn. The scene quickly changes once again. Malice bursts from Ganon's revived corpse, the gem in the Demon King's forehead gleaming a sinister bright red, just like the malice erupting from his chest. Link, who was standing in his fighting stance, quickly drops the Master Sword, the sword of evil's bane, that beautiful weapon that has been corrupted by malice, and his arm, now withered and dry and scarred, possibly by the same malice corruption that destroyed his blade. He turns and dives off into the abyss, reaching his hand out, reaching for something, reaching for someone. We cut to black. After the princess utters a desperate plea, we cut back to where we left off. Only now, we see why Link was so desperate. Zelda is falling. She is falling into the depths of the dark void below. After this, we cut to black for the final time, and once again we see the game's release date. Well, that just about covers it, I think. This trailer got me super hyped, and I'm sure you guys are all just as excited about Tears of the Kingdom as I am. This is actually the first project I've ever done on YouTube, or really any other platform for that matter. If you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like on it, and if anyone has some constructive criticism for me, or if there is anything I missed in the trailer, I'd love to hear from you down in the comments. I'll try to read any I get. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope every one of you have a great day. Bye for now.